My name is Rick Koenig, and I sold over $500,000 worth of cocaine with my father out of our family's pizzeria. My father owned Rick's Pizza. My father's name is Rick also. He's senior, I'm junior. In the 70s and 80s, you wouldn't buy a pizza off of a German person or an Irish person. You had to be Italian. But my last name, Koenig, it's a German last name. So he would tell me, if anybody asks you what your last name is, kid, you tell them, Pizza. You see the name Rick's Pizza, P-I-Z-Z-A. My father would work 80 to 100 hours a week. Growing up, I rarely saw my father. I mean, basically wasn't around. He worked 6 days a week. When Sunday came, I was attached to his hip. He was my Superman. He was the definition of a real man. He was a provider. But as a kid, I miss my father a lot. When I was growing up, I fought every day. I grew up in one of the worst cities in the United States, Camden, New Jersey. So if you wanted to fight, you could find one, especially at my age. You know, there's a kid 3 or 4 years older than you that definitely thinks they can test your chin, because there's a big difference at that point in time when you're looking at a couple of years. So it was basically, I was fighting older kids, and I was earning my rank. And they knew. Anytime I got into trouble, I had to work at the pizzeria for free. From the time I got in there until I left, he had me doing something. My father put me to work, man. Strictly takeout, but he did have tables in there for, you know, the wise guys that would come in. I had more uncles than anybody probably in the country, in the world. But obviously they were not my biological uncles. It was just like, you know, Uncle Vito, Uncle Ralph, Uncle Dominic, and they were connected. These guys were coming out in designer Italian suits, the best shoes, the Rolex watches. Everybody had a Cadillac or a Lincoln, brand new. I mean, you're talking about Hollywood status. They were celebrities. You know, they were treated like kings. And I mean, you know, you're a kid, and these are my uncles. I was gonna make something out of my life. I was driven to that lifestyle, you know, growing up. I didn't have to watch The Godfather, I was living it. And there was just always a constant flow of action coming through the pizzeria. My father was a loan shark, so he would lend out money to individuals. He had somebody that was an enforcer that would collect money from those individuals that owed money. And his enforcer ran security at a lot of the nightclubs. He knew my reputation. He knew that I could fight, I could handle my own. So at the age of 18, he gave me an opportunity to work as a bouncer at one of the nightclubs in Philadelphia, which was owned by a mobster. Your life is on the line every single night that you're working at facilities that are run by the mob. In the late 80s, early 90s, it was warfare. You had people that were fighting for territory, and there were a lot of casualties. If anybody came close to my boss, I had to jump in. And my eyes were always on him, because you never knew what was going to happen. There was a few incidents where I had to step in, and I was very fortunate that I'm alive. A lot of individuals that I was associated with that I knew through the nightclub industry died, got murdered, got sentenced to life in prison, no longer are around. But that's the price you pay. At the age of 21, in front of a nightclub, I saw a guy get his head blown off. This young kid pulled out his gun, and he pointed it at a made man. And the made man just looked at him and said, "You don't got the balls, pussy." And as soon as he said that, the guy released the trigger and fucking blasted him in his head. It was the weirdest thing, because of, you think so much, but everything goes into slow motion. And it's like your bones are just crumbling and you drop. And there's a lot of blood.
Did the guy die?
Yeah, he fucking blasted his head off. Anybody that was gonna get close to my boss was gonna feel it. And I saw him getting into an altercation with this gentleman at the bar, and the gentleman at the bar winds up pushing my boss. I saw red. I went over there and I started smashing this guy, and I'm talking about smashing him.
Take him outside.
I'm dragging him out, and at that time, my boss came to me and said, "What the fuck did you just do, kid?" I said, "What do you mean, what did I just do?" I said, "I'm doing my job, I'm protecting." He goes, "Not him." What I didn't know was that guy was my boss's boss. He's allowed to push me, he's allowed to spit on me, he can call my mother a whore. He goes, "You fucked up." I got snuck out the back door, and I never went back to that establishment to work. I needed a new way to make money. Every night that I was working in the nightclub, there was thousands of dollars of cocaine going through that club. I saw an opportunity to make a lot more money than just being a bouncer. I was fortunate and unfortunate, I guess, to have the connections to make that start happening. My workout partner was an enforcer for a drug kingpin out of Camden. So that was my in right there. So obviously I went to this individual, and then I started to cop half ounce, an ounce, 2 ounces of cocaine. With cutting it, stomping on it, I could quadruple my money easily. I started to sub it out to the other clubs. Sometimes it was the same club every single night. Sometimes it was different. I went to the strip clubs, and that was every single night, 7 days a week. But that's all I did was hustle. When it came to cocaine, I owned the Philadelphia, South Jersey nightclub scene. But while my business was booming, my dad's business was struggling. My father owning the pizzerias, you know, there was a code of ethics where another pizzeria wouldn't open up at least 15 miles to the next, okay? Now you have these chains like Domino's, Pizza Hut, Papa John's. They would open up right next door to you across the street. The business my dad worked his whole life for was going out of business. My father got rid of this townhouse that he had, and we moved right upstairs from the pizzeria. We needed money, and we needed it fast. I wanted to help my father out. I had a relative that approached me and said, "Hey, listen, I'm able to get massive amounts of cocaine that hasn't been seen in decades at a very, very low price if you're interested." And I jumped on it. My family member's job was to incinerate cocaine that was seized by law enforcement. The cocaine that I was buying off of him was seized probably 20 years previous, and this was prime stuff. And he's selling it back to me for a fraction of the price. I actually had a guy who was a made man, and his uncle did a bump of the shit I had. And he said, "You know what? I could swear this is mine, because it's just as good or better than what I had back in the 70s. I learned from my uncles early that if you were going to run an illegal business, you needed a front. Rick's Pizza was the perfect front, an all-cash business. So I convinced my dad the quickest way to save our pizzeria was to team up, sell cocaine, and that's what we did. I mean, people were coming in for one or two different reasons. You're either coming in for a pizza, or you're coming in there for cocaine, or you're coming in there for both. And we never confused the two. So no one actually got a pizza and left with some cocaine that wasn't supposed to have it. At 19, I'm making over 50 grand a week, and I'm like the guys that I worshiped when I was a kid. I'm buying that designer Italian suit. I'm buying that Rolex. I'm going to Atlantic City. You know, we got bottles of Dom Perignon with straws in it walking around nightclubs like it's New Jack City. I'm making the money, and I'm spending it at the same time.
Whoa.
My old man wasn't about the flash, he was about the cash. He knew how to save money. He knew where to hide money. I did not have a problem with him keeping track of everything that was going on. I mean, my father was breaking up the bricks. Some of the shit was like as hard as rocks. I used to tell him, wear a mask. He said to me he was wondering why he was getting dizzy. All right? Well, no shit, Sherlock. You're breathing in the fucking coke, all right? Working side by side with my father was probably my fondest memories. Everything was working out great. I mean, life was good. One day that I finished my shift, I went to the supermarket. And as soon as I pulled into the driveway, I looked upstairs where the kitchen was, and there was a door that was open. And I have OCD. And I'm like, why is that door open? Which then at that point in time, I knew something was going on. What went through my head at that moment is, the party's over. As soon as I opened up my car door, they came on me. I heard voices say, hit the ground now. And sure enough, I hit the ground. And as I peeked up, I saw about 5 guns pointed at my head, and they meant business. My father and I had a language. We had the look. My father looked straight through me and said, do not say a word. First thing that went through my head was somebody ratted us out. My father had a friend, Larry, and Larry always rubbed me the wrong way. He asked too many questions. So sure enough, the guy that I felt uncomfortable with was the guy that set us up. Larry wore a wire and snitched us out. And they went ransacking the whole apartment upstairs, went down to the pizzeria, tearing it apart. They knew there was supposed to be some drugs there, and they didn't find it, and they were pissed. I felt extremely guilty on the way to jail. Everything that my father worked for his whole life was destroyed right in front of him. It broke my heart. My father and I needed money for bail, and we needed money for our attorney. So we're now in the county jail. Our father says, well, listen, I don't know what they took, but we have a bunch of money in this one spot. You gotta make a phone call, and you gotta get somebody to break in there and get it. And the only person I knew at that point in time that I could trust was my ex-girlfriend, because she goes, you're a piece of shit. And she goes, but I love your father. So for your father, yes, for you, fuck you. She waits till it's dark, and then she smashes the back window. She went to the back room. She had to open up the floorboards. My father had an underground safe. When she opened up the safe, she wanted to shit herself. She never saw that much money in her life. There was over $100,000 in cash. That money that she found was strictly meant for the attorney. If we didn't have that money hidden in the pizzeria, we would have been fucked. We would have been in jail for a lot longer. They caught us with a scale. They caught us with cutting agents. Our charges was possession, the intent to distribute, and manufacture. My father and I were both sentenced to 20 years in prison. Selling coke out of the pizzeria with my dad was the glory days. But again, the #1 rule to selling drugs is don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Ultimately, I wound up serving my 5 years. My father served 7 years. We served our prison terms side by side, which was kind of cool. At that time, we were the only father and son team to ever go through the penitentiaries together. Even in a bad situation, we turned it into a good situation. We did our time. Our time didn't do us. And it might sound weird, but we basically enjoyed every day we had together. And I guess in one way, we were forced to become close.